start to continue to come. So you have to give me a second. Let me admit the person. Okay. All right. So good afternoon, everybody. And I am Vivian Mao. Welcome to our member spotlight. So glad to see familiar faces and new friends in the room. And this is exactly what we are here for. The Gies iDegrees Bay Area community is this to create spaces for meaningful relations to grow. So we have this member spotlight, and it's a way to go beyond resumes. We wanted to understand or know each other better, and just not titles, but our paths and our aspirations. And my hope is that the real friendships, opportunities, and partnerships naturally emerge from it. So tonight's guest need no introduction, and now he knows that he's very popular. That's our Tim Graham. And he has been a senior director of program management and I have problem pronouncing this well to make sure I got it right. Centessa Pharmaceuticals, with 15 plus years advancing life-saving therapies across, rare diseases, oncology, hematology, immunology, and neuroscience drug development. That's quite a bit, huh? So all while he was earning his MBA from our school. So Tim, so glad to have you here. A quick note before we get started. We'll have 40 minutes of the formal interview and plus the open Q&A. I will have this portion recorded, but if we go beyond that, people would like to have more questions. Those are, that won't be recorded. And then once it's recorded, then we'll drop into our YouTube channel. Yes, we do have one. And I would paste Tim's LinkedIn in the chat. So feel free to connect with him after that. But very first, let's see who's in the room. And I would like you to turn on your mic and your camera if possible, and to let us know who your name, what are you working on right now, and what do you want to get out of this? And remember, 30 seconds each only, because we do want to make sure that everybody has a chance. And please drop your LinkedIn in the chat. So this community only becomes much more powerful when we actively connect it, right? So without further ado, who's gonna go first? Tell us about you.
I can go first. Hey,
please.
This is Raja. I live in San Jose and I work at Everpure. I'm an engineering leader in the Flashblade group and I love networking. I myself and Vivian were one of the first ones to start this WhatsApp group and the overall community, and it has become such a I can see the fruits of our effort now, and I love this. So thanks, Vivian, for doing this member spotlight series.
Thank you. Arjun, we cannot do this without you. I still remember how we got all this all started. So thank you for coming here. And then the next one would be Alex. Okay.
I'm sorry, coming off mute was tough. I apologize. Alex Giddings. I work in biotech sales. The first one that I have attended, I saw the flyer come out in the iMBA group, and I was interested in really pursuing new paths, and I thought that this workshop would be fantastic for me moving forward.
Yeah.
Great. Great, welcome. And next one, Dave.
Hey guys, Dave Nemiroff. I'm here in Monterey, and 2022 graduate. Great program, and I see the value of continuing to increase the strength of our network, and appreciate all the work that's being done in that area. Vivian and all. My sister was involved in a lot of clinical trials, so I'm very interested in some of the work that Tim's doing, and I'm very curious to hear what he has to say. So looking forward to it.
Welcome. Thank you. Yingxi, you're back.
Hi, Yingxi Ao. I graduated 2024. I work for Pacific Gas and Electric, power generation. So definitely very interested in just kind of learning the challenges and leadership experience that you face in the biotech space. So
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, Jim. Come on
Hi.
up.
I am just starting the MBA program. I find the value to join these to, create and broaden my network and learning. But as far as, Tim's experience goes, I am a project manager. So
Oh,
there's
awesome.
the value there. And then I work in electrical utility industry, but I have a background as a paramedic. So, my interest for the MBA program, at least, is going the Carl capstone route, and I have a medical interest as well. So, as far as Tim's insights, I'm sure it'd be valuable to understand a little bit more about what he does.
Yeah, very cool.
Kate?
Hi, everyone. I actually work in medical space as well. I work with medical devices. So work from the development up to the marketing the devices. It's good to hear the perspective, Tim's perspective, a little bit different industry, but also same sort of in healthcare. I'm more than halfway through the program. And yes, thank you, Vivian, for organizing all the events, all other events that we did. Just recently went to Bloomberg. That was great. Thank you, Derek, who's not here as well. Looking forward to the next events.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And Raja already did. And Ram, come on.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Ram Rairo from Santa Clara. I graduated in 2025, and I work at SLAC National Lab, which is a Office of Science lab under Department of Energy, and I lead their enterprise business systems team, taking care of the accounting, finance, and supply chain systems. What I would like to get out of this meeting is learn more about Tim's leadership journey. And the best thing I love about this group is continue to network. Even the graduation is done, but I still love this group and learn from you all guys.
Nice. And this is a new person, John McGill. Sorry, I probably butchered your last name. Sorry about that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm trying to get the camera to work, but it's not. Well, anyway, I don't know why it's not working. It was
That's
working
okay.
before, and then just started. Anyways, thanks for having me. Yeah. So I actually work in pharma right now, so at Eli Lilly, and so
Wow.
yeah, that's why this really attracted me. I saw this and this is interesting, and I just started this March and basically taking economics and program foundation. So yeah, really interested to learn about Tim's journey, and I think try to extract as much. Oh, there I am. Here we go. It's working a little slow, but yeah, and just try to kind of have kind of a guiding light, going forward, and just try to, because I feel like I'm at that same intersection of kind of science, technology, but trying to extract more and kind of more of the leadership realm within pharma and biotech. So yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for having this. This is great.
John, where are you located? Curious.
Indianapolis,
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
Midwest.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, we have
And
reached
John-
that far. That's great.
I'm
Okay.
just curious, what function do you sit in?
So, sorry. Yeah, so I'm in clinical research right now. Well, yeah, the department's clinical research. I would say I kind of sit at the intersection between, say, hardcore clinical trial-based research and discovery research, kind of more of a translational. Do work on a lot of assay development, tech development, et cetera, kind of to help build up a lot of the assays that are kind of used potentially for a lot of the clinical trial, clinical testing, et cetera, clinical trial enrollment. Also a lot of tech development, kind of working on a lot of the new latest stuff like spatial biology, a lot of the new stuff that's not necessarily ready for prime time when it comes to clinical trials, but we get to kind of play with a lot of that tech, so it's pretty interesting.
Wow, you sound like you do a lot. It sounds like you're in the intersection of like clin dev, translational science, translational biology.
Yeah, correct. Which I think is a good thing, but as I'm kind of looking potentially for new positions outside of that area, I've kind of I almost feel like I pigeonhole myself a little bit to the sciencey side. So again, that's kind of, I was like, all right, I need some way to show that's not all about me. And so that's when I started looking. My wife, actually, she just did an MBA recently. She's got the same background, PhD, postdoc. She's working for a biotech company. And so she just finished her MBA in December through the Kelly School of Business at IU. And so she's been kind of pushing me towards this route. She's like, oh, you need to do this. You know, you have a good mind for it. So yeah, I was looking on Coursera for courses, and I kind of came across this one as an actual degree, because the asynchronous part is all through Coursera. So I'm like, you know what, let's do it. Let's just get it going. So
yeah, I'm happy to touch upon like technical to PM route type of thing and talk through some of those aspects. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Sonia, start.
All right. So I completed my MBA last year in May. I graduated, and very proud of that. And my journey has been program management for the longest time. I've been doing program management in various different industries and domains for the past 15 years. I pretty much switch my job every 3 years. So it's every time it's a new challenge. That's what excites me. And I am, here to really learn, Tim, about your journey, how you have grown, and because it's always good to hear from a program manager because they understand your pains. So I look forward to
share all of my pains.
Yeah, and I'm based in the Bay Area, California.
Wonderful.
And Sonia is our real estate investment or real estate related questions expert. So you can always reach out to her for that.
I don't know about that. That's my side thing. I work in the tech industry, in the software, mainly with software for as an engineering program manager. Currently working at Apple. So.
Oh, all right, Larry.
Well, I'm Larry. I'm based in the Bay Area and connect with a lot of the great things said about this program, about the community. So Vivian, thank you for putting this on, and like I said, very nice to see a lot of different faces and love to connect with folks. Started in August, but I'm trying to kind of get more involved, and I'm actually in the process. I applied for the graduate student board. So if anybody folks have thoughts on kind of, any ideas about for Gies, soon hopefully I get into one of those roles, either VP of technology or community. But Vivian and Tim, thank you for coming out. I'm thinking about doing a lot of more kind of events, networking, and kind of figure kind of how to advance the program. So super excited for the session. I'm a product manager by trade, but I feel like I've been in tech. So most recently I was at Walmart, but I'm really excited to kind of hear kind of the program management side of things from the healthcare perspective, because I feel like one of the best ways to kind of learn about my role and potential roles as I'm in the job search is to kind of see how different industries do it, because I feel like there's a lot of kind of cross learning that it sometimes is kind of unexpectedly comes out of kind of these types of sessions. So super excited.
Yeah, awesome for sure.
Great, thank you. And we have a couple more. So Ying, please go ahead.
Hi, Vivian. Thank you. I'm Ying Ken from Bay Area. I completed my MBA last May, and I'm a PhD in biomedicine. Currently, I'm working in a biotech startup. I wear multiple hats, leading operations across the entire product life cycle, from R&D and manufacturing to secure FDA clearance and managing our market launch. Other roles such as market research, fundraising, overseeing clinical study. I heard several of you did a clinical study before, looking forward to learn. And other things like website and app development, kind of all over the place. And I'm looking forward to continue learning from team and connecting everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ying is also teaching at a college, so she wears really multiple hats. All right, so Ida, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Ida Wallbank. I'm also up in the Bay Area. Sorry, I'm joining a couple of minutes late and still in the middle of my workday, so I'll go off camera and unmute shortly. I am a project manager and environmental consultant. So a lot of my focus is on the environmental health and safety and social due diligence around financial transactions, mergers and acquisitions, and just general the work that happens around buying and selling local commercial real estate, and also international. Just really excited to listen into the conversation today, and really happy to meet everybody. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. And Irina?
Well, hi everyone. Thank you, Vivian, for letting me speak. So, my name is Irina. I'm originally from Belarus. It's Eastern Europe. I have several degrees in healthcare, and I currently work in research. So I'm still at work, so I may leave and come back. So please forgive me. My target role is is management consulting. So I would like to connect with some of you who have been working in that role or plan to work there to learn more about the specialty, and just would love to connect with all of you. Well,
Awesome. Awesome. Remember to drop your LinkedIn. Okay. And the last but not last, Jacob.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Jacob. I'm currently in Singapore. I work in maritime shipping. I do dry bulk shipping, so commodities. So like iron ore, coal, wheat. Very different from what everyone's talking about. My first job was actually in tech. I used to be a sysadmin. That's way back, like 20 plus years ago, 20 years ago. Yeah. So the funny thing was that about 15 years ago, I was in a mining startup. So basically it's a greenfield. So we ran that almost like a tech startup company. So within 1 year, we did a RTO. We reverse listed it on the Hong Kong main board. And then the 08 crash came, and then my stock options and whatnot, went down to, I don't think it went to zero. It went to like 10% of what it was. Yeah. So then basically I started an MBA program last August. So I'm looking to connect and learn from everyone here. So
welcome. All right. Sorry, it takes a little while, and I sounded a little bit hurry, but I do want to get this one going. So without further ado, Tim, tell a little bit about you.
Yeah, so essentially, as you said, 15 years of biotech experience spanning from the services side. I originally started off on the CRO side of things, managed to make my way into pharma and essentially loved it and didn't want to leave. And I started off more in a technical route. I was actually a translational scientist for a number of years before switching over to program management. And honestly, I recommend it. It is phenomenal. John, looking at you, I recommend it. Happy to talk more about how I did that. But essentially, this has been such a fulfilling career path, right? And I have essentially this MBA to really thank for a lot of it, because back whenever I was kind of a newbie in the pharma space, right, I was still getting my bearings, still a very technical side of things, right? And there weren't a lot of opportunities really to essentially kind of show leadership capability, being able to talk in front of folks, presenting type of things. And really that MBA really gave me the confidence, gave me the skill set, gave me knowledge outside of my little silo in order to essentially help support that. And so since then, I know that MBA, not only from a skill set, but also just being on my resume, has really helped a lot. And so that's definitely been a huge value add for my career path, and especially has compounded over time to get me to where I'm currently at. But of course, certifications like the PMP, I have Agile certifications. I recently became a black belt in Six Sigma. Stuff like that really helps as well, and just adds additional flavor, right, in terms of all the things that I'm able to help support in various capacities, right? But I would say that it all essentially centers on the MBA itself. And so I couldn't speak highly enough of this Gies program to the point where, as an alum, I graduated in 2021. I actually am supporting as part of the admissions committee as an interviewer. And so a few of us actually help support the program and just to help advance it going forward, which has been a phenomenal experience to be able to see a lot of you come through and interview, right? I'm pretty sure I've interviewed probably a number of you. But
I think Jay did come forward and say that he was interviewed by you, right? Yeah. Jay Chen, yeah.
And it's something I really truly believe in, right? Because not only has this MBA impacted me in a lot of different positive ways, but I want to also make sure that folks who are coming through the door know that you don't have to be some business expert guru to come and join this MBA, right? I never took a business class in my entire life before I had actually joined this MBA program. And being able to start fresh and start and learn something brand new was actually so cool for me. And
great.
So having that approachable and yeah, so essentially was a really great opportunity. And yeah.
Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit, like one thing that people usually know about you and one thing that you wish people wouldn't assume?
Yeah, so one thing that I'd like people to know about me is how much I really care about career building, especially in terms of how awful this job market currently is. I know what it's like to be on the market. I have been there, done that from both the interviewee and interviewer side. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it is awful. And I really like to be able to help people through that process. And so it's something I really believe in. That's one of the reasons why I mentor for Project Management Institute. It's a nonprofit that puts on the PMP certification. Essentially, I actually founded the mentorship program through San Francisco Bay Area chapter in order to really focus on career building, right? And to get people where they want to get to. And so that's something I really believe in. And then the thing that I wish other people wouldn't assume about me, I've noticed actually that as I've gone up in title, people think I'm always so busy that I don't have time.
Aren't you?
I know. I mean, to a certain extent, yes, but I'm always happy to have a chat. I'm always happy to just talk through certain things or problem solve or just talk, right? It's something so simple, and the title means nothing, right? It's just, I'm just still the same person, right? And so if anyone has anything that want to chat with me about program management, mentorship, MBA, whatever, you name it, I'm happy to always chat and connect and network. Yeah.
That's great. Love that. You already talked a little bit about how MBA has changed you, and anything else that you would like to add to that? If you think that you really have said enough about how MBA has helped you, what did you maybe elaborate a little bit how you think about networking? Because a lot of people join an MBA program because they wanted to know more people, they want to do much more networking, and then network really helps or whatever. So what do you think, how do you think that we can do a better networking?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times people view networking in different facets, right? To me, I don't see it as just very subjective, right? It's not just you randomly find people on LinkedIn and connect with them and that's your network, right? To me, it's really more about building relationships, building bonds, building trust, right? And really, in order to do that, oftentimes you have to really know enough about each other, right? See how they actually interact with you, but also how they overcome challenges together, right? And those are the people who are willing to essentially die on the sword with you, right? And essentially bring you into organizations, open opportunities for you. That's what people talk about when they say, go find your network and use them to help you get that next job. The people who worked alongside you and actually can vouch for you, right? And so making sure to essentially be good at what you do, enjoy what you do, but also enjoy the process with others, right? Your coworkers, yeah, they're not your family, they're not your friends, I get that. But to a certain extent, they can vouch for you, right? And you can vouch for them. And so you want to be in an environment where both of you can thrive together, right? And can actually move up the chain, right? So the more opportunities you have to do that, the better off you'll be, right? Because again, you never know where that next opportunity will come from. You want to make sure that you're planting seeds all over the place.
That's true. So very true. By the way, anybody, if you have a question and you would like to raise your hand, feel free to do that or just jump in the call. And thanks so much to Ying that she is really, really incredible grateful for your support. So she put in the chat. That's so nice of her to say that. Yeah, so you really do what you say. So great, thank you. And you mentioned about your PMI mentorship, which I find very interesting because we have talked about mentorships. We need to find mentors, we like to mentor people, but very few people really make a big deal out of it or, participate in the kind of organized efforts. I find that fascinating. Why don't you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think it originally started whenever I was in grad school. You can imagine just a kid, just trying to figure out life, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, right? And I remember always being told by folks that industry is evil. You should never go into industry. You're selling out if you go into industry because you're not doing real science, right? And I bought it. Like, I didn't know any better. I was just a kid, right? And honestly, I wish I had a mentor back then that could have steered me straight and said, no, that's dumb, right? Here are some opportunities that you could potentially look at that might suit you and some might not, right? And really help kind of work with me as I progress through my graduate career to better understand, like, okay, well, you didn't like that. That's fine. What about these other opportunities, right? And so just having someone who has been in the industry and knows available options, but also someone who just cares, right? Who just kind of is willing to listen and work with you. To me, it's so rare to find those like genuine connections anymore these days. So that's why, I mean, when I first moved out to the Bay Area back in 2017, 2018, something like that, that was the first thing I wanted to do, was find mentoring, right? I wanted to provide and give back to the community, but also find my next mentor, right? To help me continue growing, right? Because it's something that as I progressed through my career, I've really appreciated. And so when I found out that the PMI chapter here in the Bay Area didn't have one, and they asked, hey, do you want to make one? I was like, okay, cool. So I made one alongside an amazing group of other volunteers. It wasn't just me. And it was so much fun to actually not only work with some amazing people, but also build something that now supports the 4,000, 5,000 people in the chapter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of fun.
And the mentorship program that you talked about is only for your particular industry, or how?
Every industry. So it's broken out into different tracks if you're interested in leadership, career building, or technical PM. And then it's broken into 5 different industries. And so I specifically do the circle or one-on-one mentoring for biosciences. Include medical, med device, everything. Yeah.
Wow, we would like to find out more about that. That would be great. So thank you. All right. So you also mentioned just now about MBA and pretty much quite a bit of certifications. I kind of lost count. So how do you approach the decision on which one to work on?
Yeah, so at least me being a career project manager, I knew that in order to even stay competitive in this field, I need a PMP, right? That's the gold standard. That's the thing that if you could look at every job rec, they're specifically asking for that, even if they're nice to haves, right? That's your competitive edge, right? So in order to be, I guess, an appropriate candidate for project management, especially with how bad the job market is these days, you need a PMP. There's no question about it. You have to have a PMP. Now, as you kind of progress through your project management career or have more PM-like experience under your belt, then the next step is how do you get into more leadership kind of roles, right? The PMP will carry you so far, but you need an MBA really in order to solidify that, yes, you get it, you know how to do project management, you know your industry space, cool. Now, can you lead in that industry space? That's where the MBA comes in. They teach you and help guide you through that and help solidify you, right, as capable of doing so, right? You still have to know your stuff, of course, but it actually sets you up in order to be a viable candidate going forward for a higher level role, right? So the way I think of it as, like, if you're super entry level, get the CAPM, which is the Certified Associate Project Management Certificate from PMI. Then if you have a little bit of PM experience under your belt, even if it's accessory, then get your PMP, and then eventually your MBA as you continue down your career path.
Wow. Yeah. It looks like different certifications and kind of serve different purposes. And it really depends on what you would like to achieve.
And I will say, actually, so in the biotech space, it might be a little bit different from tech, which I know a lot of folks are in tech here. We do not operate in an agile environment whatsoever, right? This is really traditional waterfall stuff. That's why PMP, even old PMP, before I like split into agile stuff, was right. That's why PMP will always be useful. Now that it's become more agile, it's become more relevant to a lot of other different industries, but it's still super relevant for the biotech space.
Great, great. Thank you. And actually, this will be my last question because I think then we have enough time for other people to ask questions. So What do you think that, I mean, you have done so much for the community already, but I'm wondering if there's anything else that you think that you'll be able to help our community here, and then how you would like us, the community, to contribute to your success.
So I love these kind of spotlights things, especially just being able a chance to get to know each other and understand each other's career paths. I look forward to hearing from others in order to kind of understand their roles as well. But if we had more focused sessions, right? So I noticed a number of folks are in the PM space or maybe in the biotech space. We can do a small group, right? In terms of getting into more detailed Q&A kind of stuff, right? I think that could be really useful to essentially have stronger, deeper bonds, if that makes sense, instead of talking at this higher level, right?
Right. Well, then we're gonna feel missed, you know, if you biotech people just gonna huddle and then we just leave us out. I'm just kidding. We do have a WhatsApp group that is for the life science biotech people, and then so there's a chance to connect. But I do agree with you, right? And you have not told us about how we can contribute to your success.
So I love that Bloomberg tour that Derek put on for us. That was so cool. I mean, I'm not in the media space whatsoever. I had no idea that we even had a Bloomberg in San Francisco. And so even just being able to go there, see what that life looks like was so much fun, because not only does it get me out of my space of like just PMing clinical trials, but it gets me, you know, out networking and learning more and growing in different ways I never knew, right? And just being able to appreciate all the other kinds of work going on in this world. And so more opportunities to be able to do that would be phenomenal. I'm happy to bring anyone who wants to Boston, where my company is located, if they want to fly out there. It is literally just a 1-floor office space with no labs, so it's kind of boring. But hey, if you want to go, I'm happy to bring you.
Thank you. Hey, we never know, all right? You know,
Boston,
we might just take it, you know. But thank you for offering. That's great. I do agree with you. So we'll work on that. More to come. So thank you. So it officially kind of closed our official Q&A, because last time we kind of spent too much time on this, so we try to kind of get dense. So have more time for people to ask questions. So now it's your turn, everybody. Any questions? Just go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. I actually did want to have a follow-up question to this question, but you mentioned that your projects are under waterfall, and I'm a little bit surprised on that. I don't know how much you want to explain, but I'm curious on that. I would imagine each thing's as a product, and you would go with the agile route.
I mean, I think there's a lot of interest in trying to incorporate some kind of agile stuff into the current process, but I mean, no. I think oftentimes there's just so much work being thrown at the entire program itself that it's hard to really encapsulate like one Scrum team working on one thing and how that's like the work goes to the teams instead of the teams go to the work kind of thing. We have one team, right? We have one product development team, and all the work gets thrown at them in all different directions, right? And so I think oftentimes agile requires a lot more capital, more human resource intensive, more different roles to support it, right? That's oftentimes I think drug development doesn't normally support.
Yeah, cool. So I asked that because, so from my understanding back in the day, once you got your PMP, the idea was it was supposed to be able to allow you to kind of pivot into many different industries, like much like the MBA supposedly allows you to do. Obviously right now in the current environment, people are kind of tightening ship, only really offering roles if you have deep industry experience, which is fine.
Exactly.
I am curious though, especially with waterfall, I understand agile a little bit more being more technical focused, but for agile, for waterfall methodology, would you say that technical experience is much required in your space?
So I would say that PMing in the biotech space is probably can be seen as a little bit more unique. I think the expectation is that project management isn't an entry-level role, right? And I think that probably goes for most industries, right? but especially for biotech, where you're brought on if you have some kind of knowledge, subject matter expertness in some thing that's part of the process, right? So for me, coming in as a translational scientist, right, I understood a lot of the pre-IND work that goes into getting the program to IND status and then eventually into the clinic, right? So my first foray was supporting actually early stage drug development because I already played in that space, right? I already knew and understood how that worked. And so that jump to project management or program management was very minimal, right? If they brought in some random person off the street that maybe had 20 years of PM experience, but no experience in biotech research or basic science research, that would be much tougher, right? It's a little bit easier to teach the PM kind of stuff and incorporate certain tools than it is for the basic science and understanding how all that fits in the overall drug development aspect. So hopefully that helps, right? So essentially, to answer your question, transferring between industries as a PMP certified PM, for the most part, I've heard a lot of success stories in that way, especially if it's like super like junior PM or like project coordinator, project administrator kind of level. But it's pretty rare to see like a full-on like PM1 or a senior PM come from a space that wasn't previously biotech.
For sure. Thanks. I would have a handful of other follow-up questions, but
let's get other people a chance first. Hey, Larry, go ahead.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for sharing all that. I'm curious. Well, kind of a two-parter. First part, I'm curious, kind of how kind of the PMing kind of role space kind of maybe changed, evolved from kind of when you kicked off your career to today's world, and kind of be curious how you think maybe AI complements it. Curious how you might use kind of AI in your kind of day-to-day and where you might see that for an effective kind of PM. It's kind of how to leverages their certain tasks like workflows, certain things, and kind of any tips and tricks that you might have.
To be honest, PMing in the biotech space is really boring. It's been like this for decades. It's highly regulated space. We're guided by FDA requirements, right? And so nothing has really changed in decades, right? I think the tools and how we go about certain processes have changed. And so we like the advent of like cloud-based PM tools. I mean, originally it was like MS Project that went to MS Project Server. Now we have Smartsheets and Rike and all these other things, right, that people are incorporating, which is great. But it's still at the end of the day, the same kind of PMing stuff, right? And so I think the overall aspect of the job is essentially the same. To your second question about AI, again, because it's a very highly regulated space, there are a lot of requirements that are always going to be required, right? I think there are advents of using AI to maybe, I remember hearing something about trying to skip like the large animal model requirement to go into the IND, for instance, right? That type of thing, right? Where, I mean, you can start using more technology, more AI stuff in order to help try to get through the process faster. And I'd be curious to see how that kind of invents itself going forward. But I think at this point, we're still early days. Like we're still trying to figure out how to use AI. I mean, at the most, like my company is just even barely looking at transcription for large language models, right? I mean, we don't really do anything, to be honest. And so I don't know, it's probably a boring answer to your question, but so far, the only thing that has ever really been AI is probably drug screening at the very beginning, right? In order to really help assess, going through like tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of potential drug candidates, right? In order to really identify your candidate selection to move forward into your IND. That's probably the extent of any kind of AI stuff at this point. But I would love to hear from the other biotech folks on here if there's anything going on in your world that's AI, but I'm a small little company. I don't know.
Well, and I appreciate that for what it's worth. Like I said, I was just kind of curious, and like you said, we're still at the early stages, and that's kind of part of the reason, kind of why I love just kind of prodding and seeing, what somebody else has found. Because I think those are kind of interesting tidbits. And also, for what it's worth, I just recently accidentally discovered Microsoft Project Server, and I didn't know if anybody's ever actually used it. So at the very least, now I know that I didn't know it existed until like just accidentally stumbled upon it. And I like you said, with the Smart Sheets and Asana, between all those tools.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't recommend staying with MS Project. It's clunky and no one cares about it. Just go with
Right,
Smart
that's what I'm
Sheets.
saying. I played around with it. It just looked ugly, and I was shocked. I didn't even know Microsoft was in the space, to be honest with you. So that's kind of why.
Hey, MS Project was king for decades. Like everyone loved MS Project, but man, it had its fallbacks for sure. And it's not the most visually appealing. So even like Smart Sheets is not as great for visual. So oftentimes we spit it out into like MS Timeline Pro or something else, right? But yeah, Smart Sheets is king these days.
Okay. Thank you. John, do you want to go ahead?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, some reason it's a little clunky today. So I just had a quick question going back. I know you've mentioned we talked about my background being very technical, and you kind of made that entry into, so you've talked about program management and project management. And so as I've looked at, potential pathways into moving away from being kind of very technical based, I've heard varied opinions. Like some people say, no, they're more or less interchangeable, the two. And then other people say, no, program management is completely different. I mean, it's, obviously there's aspects of project management involved with program management, but I guess like if you could kind of speak to potentially some of those differences, or I mean, do you think there's no differences, and then potentially then for someone like myself who's kind of looking for that first step outside of, the lab, the technical side, to how best to chart that would be maybe more into program management first? Because I've heard some people say you don't necessarily need kind of that SME background for project management, whereas program, again, this is what I've been told. I try to talk to a lot of people and I hear lots of varied things. So that's why something like this is great, talking, with a different opinion.
Absolutely. So the way that I see this is that project management and program management are different roles, right? So I am a global program manager, GPM. That is an actual function that sits within most biotech or pharma, right? It's its own vertical, actually, separate from any other path, right? So that's usually when people say you're a program manager, that means you usually sit on that vertical, right? If you're a project manager, usually, again, this is very general, project manager usually sits within a function, right? So you sit within TOPS, DMPK, whatever, right? And you actually you report up through that chain, and usually it's more like study monitoring, more operation specific kind of stuff, right? And so you're more of a technical project manager in that sense versus a global program manager, which oversees and coordinates throughout the entire program instead of just within one function. And so they're two different levels of roles, if that makes sense. Now, lots of different companies call these things lots of different things. Whenever I was at Pfizer, everyone was a project manager. There was no such thing as program managers, right? It was either a project manager or portfolio manager. And so it kind of depends on where you go, to be honest. But that's how I see it, as like two distinct roles.
Yeah, and I've seen like the title, at least, and that's what, it's kind of what you're saying is a lot with like at Lilly, and then they have portfolio project manager. And so I mean, someone like me is not in that space. It gets very confusing really quickly. But I guess my question then, just follow up quickly. So like for me, kind of a first step, would project management be a good first step, or do you think trying to leverage, say, my MBA, my classwork, into go into program management? Because to me, it sounds like program management, it's you use your background, your technical background, potentially a little bit more than, say, just general project management per se.
So I would say that there was probably two aspects that you probably want to consider at this point. The first one is how much does the company want to internally transfer you into another role, right? Because you need the company to really believe in you, that you'll be successful in a new kind of function, a new space, right? If you're hired for one thing, you probably don't want to get rid of you in that one space. So transfer you somewhere else.
And you went into that as well, and I've kind of, so.
And so you need a company who is willing to take a chance on you. in order to do that, right? And so I think that will essentially help solidify whether you can go up to a program manager space or go maybe more lateral to a PM space, right? But also, it's not necessarily that you can't do one or the other, but it's really more about what do you want to do? Like, what kind of job do you want? Do you want to lead an entire program through drug development, or do you want to sit within a function and lead studies, right? Or lead projects, if that makes sense. And so it kind of depends on kind of your flavor and how much stuff or how much headache you want to go through.
Yeah, right. Responsibility. So no, that's great. Yeah, that's a good answer. I'll probably research it a little bit more, I think, and reach out.
And I'm happy to talk more. Yeah, reach out. I'm happy to talk more about this.
Great.
No, thank you.
Sonia?
Before I begin my question, just a quick one. John, are you in the tech industry or biotech?
So I'm in pharma industry.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right. Because the tech world is a little bit different. That's why. Well, anyway, my question for you, Tim, was this is really out of curiosity, because in the tech industry, what happens is if you go with the waterfall technology, you go through the process of design and this and that. By the time you come up with the product, you're already old, So you need to be. So I'm just wondering, in your space, in the biotech, doesn't that, because you're developing a drug which may take like 10 years or 5 years, has it ever happened that you're still developing and analyzing and somebody else has already come out with that drug and then you restart and do something else and all your 3 years work is gone?
Yes. The answer to your question is probably yes, in the sense that I think no matter what, whether it's waterfall or agile, you have folks who are constantly assessing not only the competitive landscape, but also your positioning, right? In terms of based on your mechanism of action, your POCs, all the data coming out through your clinical trials, you're constantly assessing, right? But in order to enact a change, that's a big deal, right? Because in a heavily regulated space, you have to submit protocols, you have to update IBs, investigational brochures. You might even have to redo your investigational, your IND, right? Investigational new drug application, right? There's a lot of FDA stuff that would be required in order to pivot, if that makes sense, right? Whereas in the tech space, I think a lot of those pivots can happen more internally, where it's a lot quicker and a little bit more nimble, right?
Right. No, and that's why I was saying, I mean, I know that your industry is not like you just start building something else, but how do you solve the problem of, you've invested 5 years and then you find out somebody else came, or do you keep track of is somebody else working on the similar drug? So you need to, okay.
Oh, so there's a whole function dedicated to competitive intelligence. A lot of money gets poured into that, right? In order to assess your competition, where they're currently at, what their readouts are. You track them at every single conference, every single earnings call. You know your competition, right? And the second that they have positive readout or negative readout, that affects your own program, right? In terms of like, okay, maybe we need to back burner this program, get this next generation up and running faster kind of stuff. There's a lot of trade-offs. There's a lot of stuff going on. But in order to actually enact the change, it takes time. It's like the pharma space is so dinosaur-like, right? It's so slow because, again, it's so heavily regulated. When you're dealing with humans, right, patients.
Absolutely.
Right, you have to follow a lot of rules, right?
And that's why I was wondering, you cannot just pivot. You've already spent 5 years. You find out somebody else is coming up. Seems like you'll have to restart, and that 5 years work is not as useful. So,
well, it's not necessarily that you have to restart, right? The asset could still potentially be viable, right? But you might need a pivot to a new indication, or you might need to look at dose formulation. So, for instance, if your competitor comes out with a drug that's maybe dosed at a lower rate as yours, right? You're going to have to beat them in some way, whether that's by money, by time, or by dose, right? And so you just have to do better, right? That essentially you're competing with each other all the time to just do better, right? And essentially whoever can make it to the finish line first, not wins, but can help secure the market ahead of time, and then sets the reference point in terms of how much better you need to be, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just jump in quick before Ying asks her question? So kind of related to that, kind of going back to the AI question. So like Lilly's poured a ton of money into that, and they've been trying to follow more of an agile type model, and kind of what Tim was alluding to as far as, you know, everything's got to almost follow somewhat of a linear path with the clinical trials, et cetera. What Lilly's trying to do is, and again, I guess being a larger company, they can kind of start a lot of this stuff in parallel before they kind of send a lot of it. And so as a smaller company, you don't really have that capital to be able to absorb a loss, but a larger company is able to do a lot of those things in parallel that other companies aren't able to do. So they poured a lot of resources into doing that lately. So that kind of makes up for some of that. What normally you would have to plod along each step at a time, they're able to kind of jump in and pivot really quickly, or kind of pour money into it, thinking they do a lot of modeling instead of say, hey, this has got a greater chance for technical success, and then pour a lot of resources into that. And then, hey, if the clinical trial comes back a little bit negative, then they either pull the cord or just pivot in a different way. But yeah, it's benefits of being a larger corporation to make up for that. So
yeah, and I think that brings up a really good point, that I don't think AI is like the solution, right? But I think it can help, like, shave off time, right? If it helps shave off just a few months here and there, right, it adds up, right, in the overall scheme of the, like you said, 10 years to get to commercialization, right? And so I can see it being really exciting to see where it can impact, but I think the bottom line is still the same, right? The FDA still needs certain kind of data in order to progress between like phase 1 to phase 2, phase 3 kind of stuff, right? You still have to show the same stuff, right? AI isn't going to magically wave a wand and say, hey, you get a pass, right? And so I think that it'll be curious to see what Lilly comes out with in terms of, you know, just shaving some time off. But I don't expect anything more than that, to be honest.
Right, sorry to, we need to, Ying has been waiting patiently. Now it's her turn.
Yeah.
And she praises you to high heaven, so hopefully not going to be a difficult question, I'm sure.
No, thank you. I think John and the team just discussed the question, what I'm going to ask, and they gave me the answer. Thank you.
That's it? Okay. All right. Anybody else has any questions? If not, I actually have one. Nothing to do with pharmaceuticals and all that. Anybody else?
I was gonna say, Tim, do you by chance know Rishi? I think he works at your company. You know, I went to Cal with him, so I was curious if you might know.
I'm sorry, what was his name?
Rishi Sharma, I think.
Oh, Rishi, yeah, he's the clinical trial manager for my program.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
actually,
I know him very well.
He's one of the housemates that are about your friends. We used to hang out together. So small world.
Yeah, really great guy.
Awesome. Okay. I actually found your topic about mentorship very, very interesting, because that is something I haven't really found in my life. And I have seen some questions here as well, like people are really interested, and some people are lucky enough to have you as a mentor, but I think we're still kind of working on it. Maybe you have some suggestions for those who have not, and you know, how would we kind of approach that, especially if your company is small, like now you have a much bigger company, then you have a lot of people, and you can actually find some mentors or even sponsors within your company. But for those people who don't really work in such large organizations, what would you suggest in terms of approach?
Yeah, so there's a lot of like nonprofit professional organizations out there. So specifically, I partnered with PMI. But there's like Biocom, for instance, is a huge one in the Bay Area. I think Biospace has their own thing out here as well. There's lots of professional organizations, right, who want to try to support their community and give back to their members, right? And so if they don't have a mentorship program, build one, right? And that's what I did, right? And I actually welcome everyone to essentially find their industry, find their niche, find their space in order to build what they want, right? Because mentors will come, right? And especially if you're looking for a specific kind of mentor, providing a space for them to operate in, like we were able to do for PMI, has been really phenomenal and brought out a lot of really interesting people and a lot of great support for lots of different career tracks. in all different industries, right? And so it's actually been really cool to see like how much engagement we've been able to drum up just because we just decided to build this, right? And so whether you want to go and build it yourself or just reach out to folks who are in your industry, right? I will say that way is probably a lot harder, especially if they don't know you. But if you have some kind of working relationship with maybe previous PI or previous boss or maybe other people who seem just give 15 minutes of their time and just assess it and see like, hey, I'd love to hear more about your career path. What you got for me, right? And see if they'd be willing to continue talking to you, right? And you can build a mentorship kind of aspect out of those conversations. And so I think there's ways of doing this, but I think it really is on you in order to want it, right? Because it's just gonna just mentor you out of the blue, right? You have to want it.
No? Oh, okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Sonia?
Do you have a mentor, Tim?
I've had lots of mentors. I do not currently have one. I mean, she is sort of my mentor. I haven't had a new one since then. She became my mentor like in 2018. She was actually my boss when I was at BioMarin. Basically, best boss I've ever had in my entire life, and I tell her that constantly. And anytime she's willing to talk to me, I learn so much from her. She's just recently retired, actually. And so she has lots of time to just tell me all the things I'm doing right and wrong.
How do you find a good one? I look for one, but I don't, it's
not
attracts me.
No, and I will be the first to admit, it is not easy to find someone who's willing to take the time and patience in order to just work with you, right? I do feel like to have a mentoring kind of personality it's not very common. I would say do your best to reach out to in your network, right? Folks who understand your path, maybe someone who's around 2 cycles ahead of you, so about 8 years, 1 cycle being 4 years, right? 2 cycles ahead of you, potentially maybe a few levels ahead of you, who can help chart a path with you in terms of where you want to get to, right? Because their world is just a little bit bigger than yours, and will be able to understand what can work and what might not work, versus you just struggling to figure it out on your own, right? And I think it's important to not just have one mentor, but you want multiple mentors throughout your life, right? Because you want someone who is aware and who is capable of being able to work with you in that moment of time, in that moment of your career, right? Maybe this previous mentor that you had in the past would know nothing of where you're currently at now, right? And so making sure that you have appropriate mentors who are willing to take the time and effort to work with you is important. But again, to your point, no, it's not easy. And so you have to just keep asking.
And like mentoring others unofficially and, doing stuff, but myself, I've not been able to find one. All right, thank you.
But organizations, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of online resources for that. As an example, so I actually mentor through University of Illinois for their molecular biology program, as well as through UC San Diego for their physical sciences program. So I mentor undergrad and grad students, partly because even just selfishly for me back then, I was a dumb kid, and I want to make sure that I can help at least a few folks, not be me back then, right? So I mentor for a few different, for sure, and it's just fun.
I like what you say that you also mentor other people, which is very, very special. And I think Derek, during our Bloomberg visit, he also talked about how he mentored other. So that's a cycle. You mentor people that it is actually very helpful. It's give and take, and that kind of is a cycle and mutual relationships. That's great. And I like what you said about like 8 years ahead for being looking for a mentor, because then they kind of know what is ahead of you, right, and can give you advice so you wouldn't have to make the same mistakes that could have been, right?
And they should hopefully know at least how to overcome maybe typical hurdles that they've seen other people themselves had to get through, right? And to help you get through them yourself, right? And so Yeah.
So within the same industry, that's very helpful.
Yes.
I think kind of
the same industry. Yeah.
Right.
It'd be hard for me to like go into tech for some VP and say, hey, I need help to get to VP level. Help me.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. And it might be our last question. Go ahead.
Well, just quickly. So this is really interesting conversation about mentorship and finding the right fit. How would you differentiate that from personal coaching?
So yeah, so professional coaching or like I think of those folks as they're. Let me take a step back. So usually when I try to mentor, I'm really focused on folks who are like more in tough spots, right? I have oftentimes focused on career building, how to get into project management, how to find that next role, something that they're currently facing then in trying to get out of, right?
They're stuck in some
They're
way.
stuck, they're in a rut, they need to figure out what the next step is for them, that type of thing, right? For me, like professional coaching or leadership coaching, that type of thing, oftentimes you're already kind of set in your career path, or at least you're comfortable enough with it. And you're trying to focus more on skills, right? Whether it's like how to have a presence in the conference room, or how to be better at public speaking or stuff like that, right? Where it's more tailored to you, more individualized, and coming from someone who you're paying money to teach you, right? Mentorship to me is not about money, right? I don't ever get paid for anything I do, right? And I don't want to get paid, right? Because these are oftentimes people who are in more sensitive times of their lives, who may not have a lot of disposable income for stuff like this, right? That I just want to help, right? And so that to me, maybe from a very basic level, that's how I kind of rectify those two camps in that way. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap in terms of what they focus on and that type of thing, but to me, mentorship is more of an altruistic kind of aspect versus professional coaching is a job, right?
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. That's a good explanation.
Oh, Vivian, I think you're on mute.
Also being wanting to ask that question, so thank you.
Yeah.
Finally, I got that answer. So great. Anybody else?
And I'm happy to stay over longer if folks have other questions, and we can dive deeper into anything.
And I can stop recording, so you can ask personal questions. Maybe how about I just stop recording from here, and then we can, right? So me do that.
You know, if people want to stick around and
thank you.